All right, hey guys, in this video, we're gonna cover your liver and your gallbladder and the role that they play in digestion. Specifically, the production of something called bile, which we need to help break down our fat into detox. We're gonna go over what happens when your liver becomes congested. If you've already had your gallbladder removed, you'll definitely wanna watch this video. And I'm also gonna share some of my top products that I've used and I use for patients to improve liver and gallbladder function so that you can have great digestion. So let's go ahead and dive in here. First of all, what is bile? Let's talk about the importance of it and how it's formed. So your liver makes bile, and this is a digestive fluid. It should be very liquidy like water, and it contains salts that are called bile salts. It contains cholesterol. It contains recycled old red blood cells in the form of something called bilirubin, and this helps to emulsify our fats, which means take the fat that you eat, like butter or olive oil, tallow, and break them down into smaller fat droplets so that your pancreas and the digestive enzymes can fully work on completely breaking them down so that you can absorb them. So without bile, we're not going to be able to absorb our fats. Now, bile also traps fat-soluble toxins. We have a couple of different detox pathways in our body. We have water-soluble toxins. Most of those get excreted via the kidneys. And then we also have fat-soluble toxins that your liver filters the blood, it traps these toxins, and then your liver goes through 3 phases of detox, which we'll get into a little bit here today, to package and eliminate those toxins via stool. So a lot of our fat-soluble toxins, they're trapped in bile, dumped into our stool, and then you eliminate those things with a bowel movement. Now, let's talk about the role that your liver and gallbladder play together in producing and then concentrating your bile. So your liver, inside of it, has millions of these little bile ducts, these small little ducts that produce this liquid called bile. But that's not where it ends. Once the liver produces the bile, it then sends it to the gallbladder. I'll show you a picture of this in a minute. It sends the bile to your gallbladder where it stores it. It concentrates it. What is a concentrate? It's a stronger version of a liquid to be able to accomplish its job. In this case of the bile, it concentrates it to be able to digest and absorb our fats. Now, whenever you eat a meal, you chew it up, your stomach works on it, then it sends it to the small intestine. When the food is moving through the beginning of your small intestine, called your duodenum, your brain sends a signal down to your gallbladder to release the bile all at once. So we want to fully release a bunch of concentrated bile to break down those fats in order for you to absorb them. Now, if we look at a picture of this, your liver, the stomach's missing from this picture here. So this is your stomach would be in this big blank area. Here's the beginning of your small intestine. If you remember back to the pancreas video, I said that your pancreas and your gallbladder share a duct called your common bile duct. So liver produces bile, stores it in here, concentrates it really, really strongly, and then it sends it in here where the bile and the pancreas enzymes mix together to fully break down the rest of your food after it's left the stomach, and also to neutralize stomach acidity. Now, this is located in your upper right quadrant. So one of the ways to tell, and this isn't true for everybody, but if you feel under your right rib cage and you have a lot of pressure there, pain, if you can't wrap your fingers underneath your ribs there because it's kind of inflamed and swollen, that could be a sign that you have liver inflammation, gallbladder inflammation, maybe gallstones. And we'll talk about some of the things that cause that and how to fix that in today's video as well. But if you ever have nauseous, if you ever feel nauseous, if you ever have pain in the upper right quadrant or behind that area, pain referred to your right shoulder blade, those are all signs that you may have a liver or a gallbladder issue. Now, going back to the pH scale quickly, let's talk about bile here. We remember that stomach acid is very acidic. It's on the far left side of the acid scale versus the far right side is very alkaline substances. So just like the pancreas enzymes, bile is slightly alkaline, and this plays a role in neutralizing the harsh stomach acidity. Remember, this stomach acid leaving your stomach, it can't go very far into the small intestine or else it would really damage the lining of your gut and cause a lot of, it's like battery acid. It would cause a lot of scarring and damage to your small intestine. So not only does the alkalinity with the bile salts help to break down the dietary fats into the smaller droplets, which is fat emulsification, which makes them easier for digestion. It allows your pancreas to work upon the fats better after the bile has mixed with them. But both of these things, the pancreas enzymes and the bile, helps to neutralize your stomach acidity. Just like the pancreas enzymes, your bile is a 7.5 to like an 8.8 to upwards of a 9. It neutralizes that so that your food can then move safely through the rest of your GI system and get absorbed properly. Because remember, pancreas enzymes, which complete the absorption of everything, they work best in a slightly alkaline environment. All right, so let's talk about liver and gallbladder congestion and what happens when your liver's not working too well and your gallbladder's full of sludge or stones, or even there's a type of parasites called liver flukes we'll get into today. That impacts your ability to detox, and it majorly impacts your ability to digest your fat. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, bile should be very fluid, should be very, very liquid like water. And if we think about just even the flow of our detox organs, one of the things we want is to have good drainage, good flow from our liver, from our lymphatic system, kidneys, even like your ability to sweat, all these ways that our body detoxes from, we want flow there. If we think about stagnation, think about like a stream flowing full of living water versus like a stagnant, polluted pond. One of those is very conducive for life. The other one is polluted and needs to be cleaned up. Well, one of the things your body does is whenever your liver makes bile and it traps the toxins and it breaks down the fat and it sends it all down to your stool, your colon, via bile salt transportations, is going to recirculate some of that bile back to the liver. So it goes down to the digestive system, back to the liver, down to the bowels, back to the liver. Over time, if we are particularly toxic, if liver function slows down, if you're constipated, if you have a good microbiome, we can begin having very sludge-like bile. Instead of water-like bile that flows very easy, it starts getting thicker, it congests the liver, and things begin to gum up. We don't have the ability to have a great digestion or the ability to detox when bile becomes thick like this. So we'll go over some things that can help to bring more fluid back to that in a few slides here. Before I get into that, what are some signs that you may have liver or gallbladder congestion? Some of that sludge-like bile, or that you might even have just your liver backing up via other reasons. Well, problems and symptoms that you have a gallbladder problem or a liver problem mostly include, a big one is you can't tolerate fatty meals anymore. Now, you shouldn't be eating fried foods anyway, right? The fast food, the fried foods, those are the worst seed oils that are going to cause a lot of damage and inflammation for anybody. But even if you're eating a lot of healthy fats and you feel like you can't tolerate those anymore, or you get nauseous after you eat a fatty meal, that could be a big sign that you have gallbladder issues. And it may be certain types of fat as well. I tell you, going back 5 years ago, whenever I went through all my GI issues and autoimmune problems, and I was very sick for a year in 2019 into 2020, one of my first issues was gallbladder problems, and there were certain fats that if I ate any type of nut, for example, almonds, peanuts, peanut butter, it was like I had a balloon inflated under my right rib cage here, like a terrible pressure. I would do a lot of burping and belching to release that. I had acid reflux, which now I believe was bile gastritis backing up into my stomach. And so one of the ways that I made it out of the symptoms was really supporting my gallbladder, because I saw a lot of need for that via my testing. And I'll show you some blood tests here in a minute that can tell you kind of the state of your gallbladder right now and your liver. So if you can't break down fats, or certain fats make you feel really bad, if your stools floating stools, I know people think it's good to have a lot of fiber, and that's okay, I guess, if you tolerate it well, but floating stools can also be a sign of undigested fat. Pale stools, if your stools aren't nice and brown, if they're whiter or pale, that's a sign of lack of bilirubin, because you don't have bile. The bilirubin part of the bile is what turns your stools brown. If you have like a shiny coating to your stools, if you have chronic diarrhea, this could be a sign of lack of bile. If you have weight loss due to fat malabsorption, because you can't absorb your fats anymore, this is a big problem with people that have their gallbladder removed eventually. And then, as I mentioned a few slides ago, if you have that right quadrant tenderness, if you can't reach your fingers under your right rib cage here, if you have pain referred back to your right shoulder blade, those are all referral pain symptoms that you have a gallbladder or a liver issue going on. Now, what could cause this? What causes the liver to sludge up and have congestion and your gallbladder to not work well? Well, particularly toxins. Your liver's job is the biggest filtration organ in your body. It's always filtering out toxins. It doesn't store them. A lot of people are like weirded out by eating beef liver and things like that. Understand your liver doesn't store toxins, it stores them in the bile. The bile itself is what becomes congested. If your liver is having to constantly filter a lot of toxins because of our diet, because of things we're exposed to, environmental toxins, things that you breathe, it gets in your blood, then it has to be filtered. Well, the more toxins you accumulate, the more your bile has to take on, and it can become backed up, congested. Seed oils, fried foods. Fats are great for your body, by the way. The way that you work out your gallbladder is eating fat. People that eat a low-fat diet tend to develop more gallbladder issues eventually, because just like the old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't work out your muscles, you're going to have atrophied muscles. Well, eating fat is what elicits the bile response from your gallbladder. If you never eat fat, if you're a vegetarian low-fat diet, then believe it or not, you can eventually have more liver and gallbladder issues that way, because there's no need for your bile to be flowing. The fat elicits the flow. Now, there are good fats and there are bad fats. We certainly don't want to be eating seed oils, fried foods, canola oil, soybean, vegetable oil, all the things that are in all of our modern foods today. If you start reading the labels, you're going to see corn oil in that list. All those cottonseed oils, they're in all the processed foods today. Alcohol, major congestion of liver function. In fact, when you drink alcohol, your liver cannot focus on anything else except clearing the alcohol until it's all the way cleared. So every time we drink, and I'm not saying it's bad to have an occasional drink now and then, but if you drink a lot of alcohol regularly, you're really taxing your body. Your liver can't focus on all the important jobs it has to do, because it is only mono-focused on clearing the alcohol until it is completely cleared. Gallstones. If you eat a lot of foods, especially soda drinks, certain teas, a lot of sugar and processed foods in your diet that gum up into gallstones, and believe me, everybody has these to some degree. Just like I talk about parasites are normal to acquire in some ways, so are gallstones on a limited level, but we shouldn't have too many of them. And there are ways to really get your liver to dump these things out as well. I'll talk about that in a minute here. But the more gallstones you acquire, we think of them as only being in the gallbladder because they're called gallstones. But I can't tell you how many patients I work with where their liver is full of stones, and when they do certain things to flush these out, you can really free up a bunch of liver function and improve your bile flow. Lastly, many people that have their gallbladder removed, the doctors get in there, they say there's no gallstones. There can be liver flukes that are congesting your liver or your gallbladder. These are a specific type of parasite that love the liver. They can live in the gallbladder, they eat through the tissue in the liver, they live there and have their life cycle in the liver, and they can really congest liver function and cause a lot of the same things that we would expect with gallstones. They can be like a mimicker of that you might not necessarily see until you're taking things to clear the liver flukes. And we've done those things before. There's certain protocols. In fact, I'll share one at the end here. Parasite protocols that are very, very helpful at clearing not just your bowels, but other organs like liver flukes as well. And these things don't always look like long worms. When you're passing liver flukes, they can look like little pieces of red jelly. They can look like potato skins, tomato skins that are rolled up as they die. They kind of self-digest. So things that might look like food sometimes in your stool really can be parasites that have been eliminated, killed, and now are kind of self-digesting on the way out of your digestive system. All right, what if you've already had your gallbladder removed? And I'll talk about this picture on the right here in a minute. It doesn't mean you're going to wear a diaper, but I do want to give you a good analogy for this. Gallbladder surgeries are one of the most common surgeries, if not the most common surgery every year. Your doctor may tell you that your gallbladder is an ancillary organ that you don't need and you can eliminate safely. I want to tell you, please be smarter than that. God developed every single thing in your body for a reason. Nothing is without purpose, and there are a lot of consequences long-term to removing your gallbladder. Now look, if you've already had that done, I don't want you to live in fear. It's not the best scenario. Optimally is to keep a gallbladder. I would rather have a 20% functioning gallbladder than no gallbladder. And there's always things you can do to bring it back to life and restore function again as well. But never fear, if you've lost your gallbladder, I will share something that you should be taking every fatty meal that can replace the bile that you're no longer making and concentrating on your own. So taking out your gallbladder, if you have a lot of pain and they do like an ejection test for your gallbladder or a HIDA scan, and they go in there and look and say, oh, you know what, Mary or John, your gallbladder is only functioning 10, 20%. Look, I would say do whatever you can to improve that. First of all, don't have that out as a last resort. And if you've had it out, sometimes it can be a short-term solution. I've worked with many people who that's not the case for. They have it out and it doesn't fix anything, or it makes them a lot worse. For some people, they may get rid of that pressure a little bit and feel better short term, but long term, there are always a lot of consequences to having this done. One of the main things is fat malabsorption. Most people who have had their gallbladder removed eventually develop diarrhea and chronically loose stools. And a lot of people get bile gastritis, where they have terrible heartburn and acid reflux, because sometimes even the best doctors doing the surgery, they can mess with some of the mechanics down there. And now what used to flow one way goes the other way back up into the stomach, and it can cause a lot of issues that are really hard to correct with people that have bile gastritis. Now, why do I have a diaper on the screen here? Well, I want to give you an analogy about the function of your gallbladder that I think is going to really help you to understand why you should do everything you can to not have this removed. So your gallbladder is called your gallbladder, right? Well, we also have a urinary bladder. And what happens if your doctor took your urinary bladder away? There's no place for you to store your urine anymore, right? The kidneys are going to filter, they're going to send it down. There's nothing to send it to anymore. So you would require a diaper, because you would be dripping a little bit of urine all day long if you didn't have a bladder to store it in. Now, your gallbladder is the same way. Your gallbladder stores the bile that your liver produces, and it concentrates it and it holds it until you eat a meal. Then your brain says, release all that bile at once. So whenever you have your gallbladder taken out, it's the same analogy of not having a urinary bladder. Instead of storing it and releasing it, you're dripping a little bit all day. You can't release a lot at once to digest your meals. You probably should eat smaller meals at this point and not, overload your system. Your liver's job is not to store it. It produces it, and now it can't store it anywhere, so it just drips a little bit all day long. Also, it's no longer concentrated. So the purpose of bile is to concentrate it to be able to really digest a lot of fat at once, and you lose that ability to do so when you've taken your gallbladder out. So I hope that analogy helps. Let's now go over, what to look at in your blood work and solutions for how to fix this if you've already had your gallbladder taken, or if you still have it, but you don't feel well, you don't have a good functioning liver. First thing is some standard blood work that you would get. A comprehensive metabolic panel can give you some insights into your liver and gallbladder function. Now, there's a marker called bilirubin. I said bilirubin is a part of bile, right? Bilirubin is old recycled red blood cells that are packaged and sent to the liver, and this gives your stool its color. Well, if bilirubin starts backing up in the blood, this is a blood test, right? It's a serum test. It either means that the spleen is destroying too many red blood cells, which is the case sometimes, very rare. I've not personally dealt with a patient who's ever had that type of a reason for elevated bilirubin. The more common reason is that if your liver gets so congested, it can't use the bilirubin. The bilirubin builds up in the blood where we measure it higher, and this is an indirect sign of liver congestion. So this is not anything I've made up on the screen. This is literally from a patient I'm working with who I just started in my program last week. A lot of liver issues, a lot of congestion. I get her blood work in, and she has one of the highest bilirubins I've seen. So high bilirubin, usually going to indicate that you have a backed up, congested liver. Now, there are liver enzymes as well. There's something called AST, ALT, GGT. These enzymes, if elevated, can indicate liver cell destruction. If something's destroying the liver cells, like a hepatitis or other liver-based conditions, cirrhosis, you might have elevated liver cells that are being destroyed, and we can measure that elevation in the blood. Another thing to look at, though, that your doctors may not really consider, because if we look at the conventional ranges, your doctor would consider enzymes even as low as 0 to be normal. But the optimal ranges, we do want some enzyme production by the liver cells. That should be 10 to 30. If it gets below 10, then it could mean that the liver doesn't even have enough juice, enough power to produce any enzymes or metabolic function in the first place. So, too high liver enzymes on your test, if you would see any of these things elevated, means liver cell destruction. Too low, if it's below 10, can indicate a liver that doesn't even have any metabolic function. It's too congested to even function or perform its actions in the first place. So you want to look at both ends of that spectrum and hopefully fall within these ranges here. Let's look at some supplement supports to help your liver and your gallbladder produce more bile, and also some for people that have lost their gallbladder. So first one on my list that I am rarely without, I like to have this just for daily maintenance or weekly maintenance, is called AF beta food. Now, AF beta food is made by Standard Process. These come in little tablets. You chew them. You take 1 to 4 per meal. I'm usually pretty liberal with these things, 4 to 6 sometimes. And this contains beetroot, the beetroot top, the greens to it that really help with bile production and bile flow, as well as other vitamins in it as well. This helps to thin the bile and get it flowing better. So it helps with production and also the current bile that you have to get rid of the sludge and the congestion, to thin it out and get it flowing better. So this is both for liver and gallbladder support. 1 to 4 of these per meal. I would say be liberal with it. If you're taking it, you probably have a reason to take it. So I would say maybe 3 or 4 of these per meal. It's going to really help to improve your liver function. Now, if you've already lost your gallbladder, this is what you need instead. And I would say still take both of these if you've lost your gallbladder, because your liver is still producing bile. The AF beta food will help with that production, but it can't concentrate it anymore. Cholecal is literally bovine, meaning beef-based bile salts that are concentrated that you can take with every meal. This is not a very expensive supplement, so you don't have to worry about, man, I have to take this for the rest of my life. Yes, if you've lost your gallbladder, you should be taking a bile salt replacement with every meal that contains fats for the rest of your life. If you're eating an apple or something, you don't want to take this because there's no fat in that apple. If you're eating a meal that contains fat, or particularly a large meal, you want to take bile salts. Cholecal can provide that for you. This is one of the things that helped me greatly. I took it even with still having a gallbladder because I knew my gallbladder wasn't functioning up to par, so I was giving it some extra support by taking literal bile salt replacements. So this will aid in fat digestion. 1 of these for a small meal, 2 of these for a large meal, and really if you're having a lot of issues, I would just say take a higher dose anyway. Again, this is from Standard Process. I'll show you where you can find that at the end. I love this company called Cellcore. In fact, I have a whole training on Cellcore if you would like to watch it. They have a product called Tdka. Tdka is a type of bile salt. It stands for toro-ursodeoxycholic acid. There are different types of bile salts that perform specific rules if we really want to get down to the chemistry of it all, the biochemistry of it all. But Tdka helps to increase your bile production by 250%. One of the ways it does this is that it increases your bile salt transporters. So we said that your colon recirculates the bile back up to the liver for a second or a third use. Tdka helps with that, as well as improving the production of bile by your own liver. Now, this is a powerhouse of liver detox and especially liver drainage. Your liver has 3 phases that it gets rid of toxins through. The first 2 phases are filtering and packaging the toxins for elimination. The third phase is arguably the most important because it's when your liver flushes the toxins with the bile down into your bowel movements, into your stool to get rid of. So think of it this way. The first 2 phases of liver detox are like you putting your garbage into a garbage bag and tying the bag and putting it in your garage. Phase 3 is like now you walk that garbage bag to your curb, you've taken it out of your house and it's ready for the garbage man to pick up. You've flushed it out of your house essentially. Tdka helps with all 3 phases, but massively with phase 3. So it really helps to flush and get rid of these toxins that have been packaged by the bile and helps your liver to produce a lot more bile. It's also helpful for many other issues. It's very helpful for cardiovascular issues. It's helpful for cholesterol, fat-soluble vitamin absorption, A, D, E, K. I love Tdka. It's one of my favorite supports. Anytime we have to support fat absorption, detox, liver function, gallbladder, and so forth. All right, lastly here, a few other considerations that I may do deeper talks on, but for time's sake, I'm not going to go over them except just to mention them in this video here. Using a castor oil pack. We love the one called Queen of the Thrones, like a toilet, Queen of the Thrones castor oil pack. She has a great YouTube channel. You can go check her out. If you're a little bit more advanced, getting into things like coffee enemas are a great way not just to flush your bowels, but the purpose of the coffee in the enema is to get your liver to flush bile, B-I-L-E. Also, getting into something, this is really for advanced users. You don't even want to consider this unless you're already doing coffee enemas. And this is something called a liver gallbladder flush. I've done 5 or 6 of these in my life. Whenever you do these, you will literally flush what looks like bags of frozen peas out of your liver. These are gallstones. You'll flush them when you go through this protocol. You'll see them in the toilet when you go to the bathroom the next morning. I had a girl before I was working with, a young girl in high school who was supposed to have her gallbladder removed. I said, this is back when I started physical practice. I said, what do you have to lose? Why don't you try and do this liver gallbladder flush before your surgery? She did it, literally saved her gallbladder, still has it today, avoided the surgery, and she says, Dr. Cole, it looked like a bag of frozen peas came out of me. And that's because these gallstones are all small and green. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with this here right now. If you are interested in some of the products I've mentioned here, you can get the standard process ones, the AF Beta Food, the Colocal on full script, including the ones I mentioned in previous videos, Zypan for stomach support, Multizyme for the pancreatic enzyme support. Full Script is one website that partners with all the biggest supplement companies in the world. You can create an account by clicking on my Full Script link here, and then instead of having to go to this website and this website, you can do it all under one website. Whenever you create an account, you'll also get updates on various sales that we run through the year. We have massive sales a couple times per year, including one coming up. I believe they do it for Black Friday, if I recall, where you can save up to 20% on supplements, sometimes even more. And then if you're interested in that Tdka or learning more about one of my favorite companies called Cellcore, I've done a video on Cellcore's roadmap to health and how to use their products. This is called Linktree. So I've started this where I have things like my masterclass. If you are interested in working with me, learning more about parasite protocols, I'll be adding more tabs to this. But in the comment section, in the description section of this video, I will have a link to my Linktree where you can go and click on these tabs and access these trainings or get these supplements via Full Script as well. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.